Hey everybody, it's Pete. How are you today? Welcome to a new episode of Stocks for Breakfast. Today what we're going to talk about is something super interesting, which is the TradingView charting platform. It is one of the simplest and I believe one of the most affordable ways for you as a new trader or even for an experienced trader to get a great experience with charting without it being too complicated. I know that most charting platforms have thousands and thousands of things you could possibly do, but what we want to do today is I'm going to walk you through so you have context, the easiest way to use a charting platform to set it up so that your eyes are always focused on the best opportunities. So we're going to walk through watch lists. We're going to walk through sectors. We're going to do that through ETFs. And then we're also going to go through different types of screeners, and specifically the most important one that I watch on a regular basis. And then we're going to break those stocks down on the charts. But here's the key. When you're using TradingView as a charting platform or as a screener, the most important thing is you want to know what you want it to do first. That's why this tutorial is based on the foundation of there's a difference between understanding how to read charts from understanding how to make money. And that's really what we're going to focus on today. If you find these videos helpful, definitely click down and subscribe so you get updates. That would be awesome. As well, if you have any questions about what we're about to talk about, definitely leave a comment down below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. If you want to trade with me in real time, click down and learn about the bootcamp too. That's down in the description. So we're going to head on over to TradingView. I'm going to walk you through the process of going from everything you could possibly look at down to the best ideas right now. And I think that's really the most important part. We have a conversation about this quite a bit in the bootcamp is why is it sometimes trades just fly off my fingers, and other times why does it seem like every time I put a trade on, it moves against me? We've all been there, right? And it really comes down to stock selection. It really comes down to understanding the market. It comes down to understanding the big picture. It's not really one thing that you need to know. It's a combination of things where what we call, I call specifically building an argument for a good trade. And I'm going to show you what that means actually right now. I'm going to give you just like a little tiny piece of what we teach and what we do in the boot camp and how we take new traders all the way up within 30 days to really feel confident that they know what they're looking at. So we're going to walk you through the broad strokes of that right now. So let's head on over to the charts. And like I said, we're going to be using the TradingView charting platform. Actually, I'll get myself over here. So the first thing we want to do is always, we want to get a pretty good idea of what the entire market is doing. We want to get a feel for whether or not we are trending, if we're consolidating. We essentially want to know, as I said, building that argument, we want to have to know if the wind is at our back. Is it stock specific market, or is it one of those markets where everything is going in one direction? And at that point, then it's very hard to make a mistake. And we kind of had that here in July and August of 2020, where pretty much every day, and you can see here hardly any red in this 2-month window here, where pretty much every pullback, every intraday pullback, every daily pullback was met with more buying, and we just kept floating higher. Those are the kind of circumstances that you want to be looking for all the time. And here's the key. If it's hard to find, it's not there. One of my trading mentors told me that a long time ago. So that's why I start out with the market. I want to know, is the wind behind our back in a big way? Now, when I talk about the market, primarily I'm looking to see what I call the order flow on these main charts. So I'll be looking at the SPY ETF, then I'll be looking at the Qs, then I'll be looking at the diamonds, and then I'll be looking at the Russell 2000 small cap stocks. So as you can see right now, all of them are at or near all-time highs. So what's interesting now is most newer traders will be looking at their platform. They're looking at TradingView in this example and saying, okay, this is great. I just can't wait to be a buyer tomorrow. And if you look at the Russell right now, that's absolutely not the case. The reason it's not the case is because you need to combine, when you're looking at your charts, order flow, which is smart money, deep pockets buying, but then you also need to combine tape reading, which is how much has happened recently. So our job as traders is to get involved when we set up our charts as close to the optimal entry point as possible, and then exit at the optimal exit as much as possible. However, when we've missed the optimal exit, when a stock has moved, and we talked about this in our coaching call last night, when it starts to move too far away from the optimal entry point, now you are doing what's known as chasing a stock, and you're waiting for confirmation, waiting for confirmation, waiting for confirmation, and then you end up buying too late. Raise your hand if that's happened to you, right? It's absolutely happened to me. So we got a feel for the market right now, and now we're looking to get an idea of, okay, we're definitely bullish. Now we want to break it down a little bit further, and you can see I have a list of ETFs, and you could freeze the screen and take a look and copy the list for yourself. That's of course okay. And we start to sort these by change. And what I mean by change is we're going to look at change from a percentage basis, and you can see there's a difference here from a dollar basis to a percentage basis. And you can see the XLE, the energy sector, was the strongest sector yesterday. But now you take it a step deeper. You start to notice in these basic candlestick setups on the daily chart that now the energy sector looks great, but it's coming into an area where sellers did something significant last time. So now you're like, okay, this is great. Waiting, too late. And now it's coming up to where sellers knock the stock down. So this is one way of using TradingView in the simplest form. So now we have the broad sector, the SPY, the Qs, the diamonds, the IWM to get a feel for whether or not we want to be buying and are we buying too late. Then we drill down deeper to look for individual sectors that are in sync with the bigger picture. Now, here's what's interesting. If we go to the ES, the E-mini futures right now, we want to get a feel for what the market's doing right now, coming into today. And you can see that we're actually down a little bit. So again, this is just a tiny window within the context. So you see how we're floating through the charting platform to get our information without even heading into a scanner yet. We're just kind of getting in the right mindset right now of, do we want to be a buyer? Is it too late to be a buyer? If I did want to be a buyer, what would I be looking to buy? So we notice now that the futures are seeing a little bit of profit taking, the ES futures. So the first thing I'd end up doing right now, again, all sticking within the basic platform, is I'd be looking to see if anything was negative this week, and specifically yesterday. And utilities, out of everything that we were looking at, actually was negative yesterday. So we start to form a picture, okay, if the market should happen to go down today, this might be the sector that you might be looking to sell short. So we kind of keep putting this into context. So we go from the big market down to the individual sectors, as we just showed you with the individual ETFs. Then I'm going to break it down into what I call my universe of stocks, which are stocks that I watch on a daily basis. And we're going to do the same exact thing. So you'll notice there was a portion of my list that I trade every day that actually did trade into what I call bearish order flow yesterday. Now, these aren't necessarily sell shorts unless, and we'd go out a little bit deeper, on the weekly or on the monthly chart, that selling has been happening a little further. So we're going down from the most broad picture of ideas. Now we're getting into a little bit more depth as far as whether or not there is selling going on, and all of these stocks pretty much are continuing to have buying. So here's the interesting thing, and this is really where a lot of traders get into trouble and make mistakes. And I'm going to come back on the screen here for a second. So we just basically use TradingView without even using any indicators or anything like that to get into the right mindset for the day, to get into the right mindset for the week. So whether you're day trading or whether you're swing trading, you use daily charts, weekly charts, or monthly charts to match the time frame that you are. And you can see that we just found that in a heartbeat. So the same thing that we did on the daily charts, you start to work your way out. Okay, well, I only make one trade a week. So you do the same analysis on weekly charts and you get a feel for what the weekly chart looks like. Is there bullish order flow? Is the tape telling me that it's just starting, or it's happened already for 5 or 6 weeks? It might be buying too late. Then you start to break that down into individual sectors. And then if you really want to get advanced, then you start to take, let's just say for argument's sake, yesterday, which it was, the semiconductor ETF was strong. So we started to notice during the day that a lot of semiconductor stocks were breaking out. They were showing good order flow. They were doing what we call hold the bid. And that's really nothing more than just using that simple watch list and then drilling down deeper into that. So we're going to head over and just look at one more thing to add to the equation now. So what's kind of cool also about working your way down is you're first looking at the market, you're looking at individual sectors, then you're going into stocks that you trade, and you're building this argument. You're kind of getting a feel. You're kind of like, it's almost like you're driving and you're like, okay, stop and go. And now the road opened up. Then you start to work your way down into the TradingView screener, and you can set up a bunch of different criteria. And again, if you want to, you can just snapshot this and take a look at the criteria that I have here. Just to give you a context, something I talk about all the time, I use an average 2 million shares per day at an average true range of at least $1.50. So I have volatility as well as liquidity. Okay, so you can see how I'm sorting it here. You can see the sectors, but these columns are really what matters to me most, is from the open. From the open means that it was a large green candlestick. So if I sort this by the open, excuse me, you'll see, keep double clicking. You'll start to see that these candlesticks change from the open in this time frame had really large green candlesticks. So for example, if I go to Riot and we take a look at that candlestick, look at that. So what we're looking for is what we call energy candlesticks. We're looking for a big difference between the open and the close, or the open and the last price if you happen to be day trading. And that's where the larger buying pressure is happening right now. And again, what's kind of interesting about this, if you start to pay attention to this and everything that we just discussed, you start to go from the market to the sectors to the stocks within those sectors. And then you start to look at change from the open and you start to find some really good ideas. Now, what's kind of fun about this is a daily chart, a universe where maybe day traders or swing traders live. But then if you're on a little bit higher time frame, you do exactly the same thing here, weekly chart, and you do the same thing on a monthly chart. And all of a sudden, all of these different types of ideas unfold, because what's going on is you've already built the picture, again, using this simple platform, from the bigger picture of knowing whether or not the market's on your side, the sectors are on your side. Crypto is obviously very hot right now. Then you go down to the individual stocks, and here's the key. You're looking for if right now is doing the same thing as the big picture. That's where the trading magic happens. That's when you put on trades and you're like, oh my gosh, that seemed like it just moved in my favor quickly. That's when trading is easier, as opposed to trading moving down against you and trying to fight price that's moving against you and hoping it starts to move back. It's just simply an easier time to be a trader when you're paying attention and what we call building this argument. Now, what's kind of cool as well is in TradingView, whether or not you're using other indicators such as volume or let's say moving averages to start using all the same type of information, you can now start to build pieces. Now, I generally start out with exactly what I just showed you. I don't usually use a lot of indicators. I am aware, and I use moving averages as a profit-taking system. I am aware, obviously, of volume, and I am, again, like I said, we're just giving you like such a tiny sliver of what we actually do. But again, this is the difference between making things complicated or using something simple like TradingView. Now, to take it even a step further, is they have this feature up here where you can start putting multiple charts on your screen. So let's just say, for argument's sake, you're a day trader and you're looking for very active ideas, but you only want the cream of the crop ideas. So you would go to a daily chart, you would put up an hourly chart, and then you'd use a 5-minute chart. And you'd use that same type of strategy that we just discussed, where you're building an argument for the idea and you are combining what is known as multiple time frame analysis in a heartbeat. So now you're looking for the same thing. Am I seeing buying right now? Am I buying it too late? Where do I see the last place that sellers or buyers did something significant? And now you start to build confidence, not because you can predict what's going on, but because you know what you're looking for. And that's a pretty simple way of using a very powerful software that I personally believe is affordable, as well as easy to use. So the last part that I want to get across here, we'll go back to the main setup, is the indicator part. So you figure out how to get what I just showed you, moving averages and stuff. And it's actually pretty simple. We're going to talk about two different things here. A lot of members of our boot camp ask, how did you get this up here? Because that's pretty convenient. We can just click a button and pop it in there. Well, you simply go over here to this drop down and you put the star there to bring up whatever you want to see as your favorites. If you happen to be looking at intraday charts, you could just type the number into the chart and pull that up relatively quickly. And then the last part, which is kind of cool, which is using indicators such as moving averages and whatnot. You just click over here. You type in, let's just say moving for moving averages. And then you could just pop in whichever one you want. A lot of people ask me what kind of moving average I use. And I use simple moving averages. The whole point of a moving average is it's an average. I don't want to start using exponential and smooth and all of those other kind of things, or weighted. An average to me is an average, so I kind of keep it simple. The last part of what we obviously want to know, and I'll pull up Amazon because this is kind of the stock that's been kind of drifting sideways for a while. You'll notice here I have this horizontal line. So what I'll generally do is I like to work the charts. That's why you see nothing on my screen. So when I'm using this platform to work the charts, the first thing I'm going to end up doing is drawing some trend lines. I want to see, is there obvious support or resistance? Is there obvious buying or selling pressure? And how do I know when that changed? Also, we wanted those. First is the trend line. That's a big one that I look at. And then the horizontal line, where I'm really looking at what are the key levels where buyers or sellers did something recent. And when I spot that, now all of a sudden I'm looking at Amazon and I'm like, okay, so there's nothing to do in Amazon until it gets out of this window. Otherwise, that's the right price. Which brings us to another point. We'll finish up with this as the last price. So let's just say, for argument's sake, that we say that this price right here, when it gets above that price, that's when I want to get involved, because Amazon's bouncing back and forth, again, using everything I just showed you, using multiple time frames, using those daily candlesticks. I'm not seeing energy candlesticks. I'm not seeing an area that, oh my gosh, that's where buyers are doing something big. So you set your horizontal line and you now say, okay, when it gets up there, wake me up. When it gets up there, give me a call, text me, let me know, right? So using TradingView, again, very, very simple. You simply, let's say the price is 34.27. Just for argument's sake, that's where we want to get our alert. We want to know when it gets up there. So what you do is you right click the chart. You're going to set it. You see where it says set alert? And we want to know 34.27. 34.27. And I want to know when it's crossing up. Very specific, because I want to know when it's breaking out of that window. I want to show a pop-up on my screen, and I only want it to be available today. I create it, and that's it. Now it's on the chart and it pops up. So what we've just walked through is kind of just like a really tiny, tiny piece of understanding how to mold all of these things together. But it's kind of interesting, because the single biggest thing that I want to get across to you, whether it's TradingView or however you're looking at charts, if you're struggling right now, you're probably doing too much chart reading. And chart reading means that you are looking for patterns. You're looking for all of these things, but you're not building an argument. Building an argument means this is there, and this is there, and this is there. And because of those bunch of things supporting the fact that I want to be a buyer, now you can go out and accept risk and expect your profit target to be hit most of the time. What traders struggle with is they only look at one thing. Maybe they'll only look at their stock. They won't look at the market. They won't look at the other stocks in that sector to build industry group strength, which is actually something we didn't do there. I have a whole other watch list of individual industry groups. So all of the solar stocks together, all of the semiconductor stocks together, all of the financial stocks. So one day you could be sorting through your list and be like, oh my gosh, all of the solar stocks are all green and breaking out, whatever. I'm just using that as an example. That's where the money hides. And that's the difference between charting. You could go crazy looking at all of the technical indicators that are available. What you're really looking for is money. Let that sink in for a second. You did not open a trading account to be the world's best chart reader. You opened a trading account to make money. And what we're talking about are the seeds of understanding how to make money. There's a difference between being the greatest technical analyst in the world and somebody who gets paid. And if you're struggling right now, that means that you need to put these pieces together in a little more detail, learn to build an argument for a great idea. Then the next step after that, what we just talked about is only the first step. The part after that is when you actually learn how to handle what happens between entry and exit. That's where the money's made. That's where the magic happens. That's the conversations we want to have a little bit deeper. If you found this video helpful, definitely let me know. I'd love to hear from you. If there's something inside of TradingView that you think you can add to this conversation, definitely leave a comment below, and definitely subscribe to the channel. I'd love to hear from you. Have a great day, everyone.